Welcome back, everybody. Opethian music theory. Taking another stab at the last will and testament. Paragraph 4. The other 3 paragraphs, 1, 2, and 3, have already been done. So link to those in the description. In fact, link to the Opethian music theory playlist in the description for anything and everything Opethian. All right? So let's take a look at this one. This is a very fun song, very rhythmic, groove-based. We're in standard tuning for this on a 6-string. We're in 6/8 for most of it. There's also a section in 12/8. Personally, this might be one of my favorite tracks on the album. This is where the album starts to get good, in my opinion. The first 3 tracks, they're kind of hit or miss. Again, personal preference. But anyway, let's jump in. Just disclaimer, as with most Opeth, especially a lot of Opeth of late, they don't have any main diatonic key centers. It's all very interval-based, pattern-based, rhythmic-based. So a lot of this might come across as being kind of unsatisfying because there's really not much to connect in these parts. It's very random. It's very whatever. Sounds good, right? But let's go through it nonetheless. So this intro section right here, very simple. Again, we're on a 6-string in standard tuning. The main note played there is a B, and then they throw in an A and a B flat, and that is actually the only 3 notes in that part. So I kind of feel like we could just look at it, even though we're starting on B, if we look at it from the perspective of A, you could say it's like an A Phrygian kind of thing because of that B flat being the flat 2. Or you could look at it as being in B, because B is the starting note, and then you could just kind of figure the B, and then the A would be up as the 7th note, and the B flat would be like the same as the A sharp, which would be like the major 7. So no matter how you look at it, you're kind of still left wondering, well, what's the key center? And as you're going to notice through this whole thing, there really isn't a specific key center. It's all, like I said, it's rhythmic based, and it's also interval based. So for what it's worth, having an A, B flat, and B butted up against each other is a very metal, very Opeth thing to do. Let's move on to the next section. I really like this. I'm going to play it, and then I'll tell you what it is. Here we go. All right. 4 2-note intervals. I'll call them power chord variations. The first of those is a major 3rd. The second is a tritone. The third is a minor 7th. And then the last one is a major 7th. So it's literally just the root note with the major 3rd, the root note with the tritone, the root note with the minor 7, and the root note with the major 7. Let's just hear that again. Makes for a great segue into the following section. Here we go. And we're right back into that B with the A and the B flat. And they throw in some other notes as well. There's a D in there and a C. More of the same. Then we have this section, drastic shift in tonality for this. And again, no rhyme or reason. Here we go. Here it comes. You can hear that tonal shift. Now we're more based, even though the E note is not really prevalent in this section, I feel like we're based more in E for this. We have a lot of the notes of E minor. We have the A, we have the G, we have an F sharp. We also have a B flat, which would be the flat 5, aka tritone. And there's also a C sharp and a D. The D being the minor 7, the C sharp being borrowed from the E major, parallel major scale. But again, more chaos, brought to you by Opeth. Then we switch over here. We've got this one. And again, another tonal shift. more non-diatonic note choice here. A lot of C sharp, and there's a C sharp and a G that go back and forth, creating a tritone relationship right here. Very fast, but you can hear that in there. I'll play it again for you right here. And then you have this string of basically pedal notes. We have a C, A, G sharp, C sharp, D sharp, and F. And it's more about the distance between the notes than anything else. Not subscribing to a specific diatonic key, but you can hear it's just all about the intervals. Then we have another breakdown before the flute solo. Let's see. All right. Up here, we switch to 12/8, and this part is rooted on the E note. A lot of pedal E, a lot of chugging on the open string for E, and then they're going to throw in these really awesome tritone, or rather diminished chords. We have essentially, we have a diminished chord off of G, with the E in the bass. I'm actually going to consider it a, because it's not a 7th chord, we can't really change the name. So I'm actually going to consider it a C sharp diminished triad, which would essentially be C sharp, E, and G, which is exactly the notes that we have, but inverted, because the G is technically in the bass, but we're playing the E pedal as the true bass note of the section. So let's just take a listen here. Here's your E, and here comes the diminished triad. More diminished triad. And then we had a tonal shift right there. And then a whole string of more diminished chords for that section. All right, the outro's in 6/8. Coming back to the original time signature. Let's check this out. So again, this whole section is based, it's a rhythmic song. That is the theme. It's recycled rhythmic themes, and they play it from B flat the first time, and then they shift it up to C, and then they shift it down to F sharp, and then they throw in this little tail area right here, and then it's right back into it. And then you hear the shift right up to C, and then down to F sharp, tail spin. So, like I said a million times in this, it's more about the rhythmic structure than anything else. Very interesting tune. I love listening to this one. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me, as always, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.